Apologies, I lost track of the time. Everybody. Call this meeting to order. Veronica, can we verify one present?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost one of my rows. Yep. Alice Langdon Sloan or Tania Mora or anyone with the Caddo tribe of Laytonville Rancheria. You may join us later online. Amanda Archer. Here. Ashley Hathaway. Here. Brady North.
Here.
Brianna Ramirez. Daniel McIntyre. Or anyone with MCO. Denise Gorney. Here. Diana Billy Elliott. Or Christina Castoreda. Or anyone with Indigenous Tribal Alliance. I'm like, I have it spelled wrong on here. Yes. See? Donald Dale.
Here.
Jimmy Pineda.
Here.
With the best health. Jacqueline Williams. Here. Jeanette Pagelis or anyone in the city of Fort Bragg. You let me know she is out sick today, so I have some updates. Janie Smith. Carolyn Honigbar or anyone with the Willits Shelter Action Group. Jennifer Cook. Or anyone with Geo Reentry. Gwen Brewer. Here. Joanna Olson.
Here.
Judy Albert.
Present.
Camille Leggett. Here. Aaron Lovato, Jennifer Thompson, or anyone with County Mendocino. Matt McMullen.
Here.
Noemi Guerrero.
Here.
Chris Martinez.
Here.
Teresa DeSimone. Here. Paul Davis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. All right, we'll open it up to public comment on any non-agendized items. Is there anybody that wants to speak? No public comment, we'll move to the approval of minutes.
I'll move.
Second. Is there any discussion about the minutes, corrections, anything of that nature?
Just for our record, Priest moved and Judy second.
There doesn't seem to be any comments, so can we take the vote?
Yeah. Before we do that, I'm going to mark Janie Smith is here. She just joined. Okay, when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain to approving the minutes that were included with the packet. Archer, abstain. Ashley Hathaway. Yes. Brady North.
Yes.
Denise Gorney.
Here. Yes.
Donald Dale.
Yes.
Jimmy Pineda.
Yes.
Jacqueline Williams. Abstain. Janie Smith. Abstain. Joanne Brewer.
Yes.
Joanna Olson.
Yes.
Judy Albert.
Yes.
Camille Leggett. Yeah. Matt McMullen.
Yes.
Noemi Guerrero.
Yes.
Reese Martinez.
Yes.
Teresa Di Simone.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Could you have any more agenda?
Yes, that's a name badge. Oh, pretty.
All right, we'll open it up to announcements. Does anyone have any?
You, unless someone wants to go before me. In your packet on page 8, there is a copy of a flyer from the Hopland Band of Tomo Indian. Their Human Services Department is presenting a MMIW awareness event that's missing and murdered Indigenous women. So they're doing an event for providers on Thursday, July 24th from 11 to 1 at the Hopland Nokomis Event Center. There is an email to register. If you want to contact them, they're providing lunch. Jeanette Ornelas with City of Fort Bragg is unwell. She's home with the flu. And so she sent me a couple of updates that she asked me to share. The fentanyl task force community stakeholders meeting will be held on Monday, July 28th. That's next Monday at 5:30 p.m. at the Fort Bragg Library. Also from Jeanette, National Night Out will take place on Tuesday, August 5th from 5 to 8 p.m. in downtown Fort Bragg. The event focuses on building safer communities and encouraging community engagement between law enforcement and the public in the community. That's all I have.
Thanks, Veronica. Are there any other announcements?
I have an announcement. The ARCC, I don't know, sorry, I'm new to the sound. They're having an event. It's called the Back to School Bash. It's Saturday, August 16th. And it's put on by a lot of community leaders as well as like churches. And they provide free backpacks, school supplies. There's raffle prizes for like iPads, I believe, and like bikes, bicycles, and all of that stuff. So if you guys want to put that on your calendar, if you guys need a flyer, just let me know.
Yes, ma'am. Right. If there's no more announcements, we'll move on to our presentations. First is guest presentation. New member orientation and community accountability committee will present. Go first.
Okay. I'll start us out and then I'll hand it over to Camille towards the end. So thank you all for coming and for listening to this. Those of you who've been around for a while have heard me do this presentation before. So bear with me. Speak up if you have questions, if you have additional input. Just make this a free-flowing conversation. So there we go. So as you know, my name is Veronica Wilson. I'm the program administrator with Mendocino County Social Services Special Projects Team. I lead the Housing Coordination Unit. Used to be Home Team. It's not Home Team anymore. We still have that email address. We provide the administrative assistant support to the continuum of care, including serving as the HMIS lead. One of the responsibilities of the COC, not just the governing board, but the whole COC, is once a year to do a recruitment for new members. We did a press release several, like month and a half ago, maybe earlier, about it. We posted the recruitment information on our website. We've had some people who've been talking. We've actually had several new organizations join. We've had some members of the public express some interest. So and so in addition to that membership recruitment, we have to do an orientation. We used to do it separate, but because there was so much that was learned there, the board asked that we just do it every year at this meeting so that everybody's exposed to the same information there. So here's your new member orientation 2025. What is the purpose of a COC? We are a body that is driven to provide a strategic approach to resolving homelessness within Mendocino County. There's a lot that goes into that, a lot of planning, a lot of coordination to address not just, there's special populations, families with severe mental illness, people who survivors of domestic violence. And they all need specialty care and they all need a unique approach. And so our purpose is to work together and to create a strategic approach that we're all working on together. Continuums of care are authorized through federal legislation. 24 CFR Part 578 is what establishes the continuum of care. I pulled this definition directly from the 2024 Notice of Funding Opportunity posted by HUD for the funding for the program. And it's designed to have 3 functions: to promote a community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness, providing funding for efforts by different providers that are outlined there. It's kind of a long paragraph, so you can see the different populations that I mentioned earlier. They're really well outlined in this little section. And to promote access and effective utilization of mainstream programs by homeless individuals and families. So a lot of people don't know what mainstream programs are, even when they've been in the field for a really long time. The COC is here to provide kind of a safety net to catch what the mainstream services don't catch in their efforts. Programs like CalWorks or SSI, Medi-Cal, all of those, general assistance and all of those specialty services that will address in their own way homelessness for that population. Sometimes there isn't a mainstream provider to provide coordination, like disabled adults with just physical disabilities. There's really not medical providers. There's not really a home for that population. And so the COC kind of helps to advocate for them and make sure that they don't fall through the cracks. Oh, I just clicked on a link, didn't I? Hopefully nothing pops up. Okay. Uh-oh. That's a code of federal regulation. Okay, pardon me. So how do we do it locally? Mendocino's continuum of care was established initially in 1995 when it first applied to the supportive housing program. It was awarded a shelter plus care program and a laundry list of other services. The shelter plus care program has evolved into what we know now as the supportive housing program. It's the grant operated by the Community Development Commission or Public Housing Authority. That's really the only one that's remaining from those original, well, it's the only funding source remaining through the continuum of care program at this point. But so it was established in 1995. When the HARF Act was passed in 2012, the group, the Homeless Services Planning Group, had to put together a COC governance charter, and that body elected its first governing board. So we've been going, I guess it's been 13 years since we started that process. General members, so the members that all of you here today, unless you're an advisory member, and you know if you're an advisory member, right, Angelica? You'll have a vote today, a say in who you would like to represent you on the governing board. Maybe you might be voting for yourself, you may or may not. And Mendocino County Social Services has been appointed by the Continuum of Care as its collaborative applicant, which means that we serve as the administrative support. We're responsible for submitting the annual or semi-annual or biannual competition, depending on HUD's flavor of the week. And as well as serving as the HMIS lead, as I mentioned earlier. Any questions so far? Comment or what? So this one's a little bit harder to read. It is in your packet, but it's probably even smaller there. But so there are 3 primary funding sources in existence today that the Continuum of Care has input in or oversight of how funds are used. The first one is the Continuum of Care program, as I mentioned before. It's a tenant-based rental assistance permanent supportive housing project operated by the Community Development Commission. It's been going on probably since the early to mid-90s, since we first applied. So there are some people who've been on the program for 15, 20 years, maybe even farther back, some of them. So it's a well-established project. The Emergency Solutions Grant Program, or ESG, that one is received by Redwood Community Services to operate the Building Bridges Emergency Shelter. They also receive funding for rapid rehousing services and a little bit for the support their HMIS or Homeless Management Information System, data collection, input, and monitoring. Did I miss anything? Great. And then the other, so those first 2 are federal. The COC, we apply directly, the contract is directly between CDC and HUD. With ESG, because we're a non-entitlement community, the funds are actually received by our state. So HUD gives it to California, which manages it through the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. And then the COC then requests the funds through the state. And so it's a state pass-through, but it's originally federal funds. And then the last one, Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, or HAP program. It is exclusively state funded. It is also managed by HCD. And we have quite a long list of services that it is currently supporting. There are some services that were provided and have completed, such as McCavin's non-congregate shelter project. So that came in and is completed. So this is what is currently actually in place or is in the process of contracting, like with We Thrive for the Lived Experience Advisory Board. Any questions on funding? How can you help? Join the team, participate in our meetings, show up to the committee meetings. It's really important to have your voice, and it's really important to have you exposed to the conversations that we're having. You can come to these meetings and get a little glimpse of it. So where the real work happens is in our committee meetings. And so we have a strategic plan to address homelessness in Mendocino County. It was originally written in 2020. It was revised in 2022, and we're actively working on revising it right now. That is linked. So if you go to the Adobe PDF, you can click on that and it'll download that original plan for you. We also have, so what does it mean to be a member of the COC? Got the general member responsibilities outlined there. We also have a handout in your packet at the end of the presentation. Looks like page 15 is a easier to read version of this, but it's basically show up, participate in some way in the annual point in time count, read the governance charter and be aware of the changes that we're making, and come to these annual meetings where we elect the governing board. It's not a lot to be a general member. How much you participate is up to you. We have different levels of engagement, and we meet people where they're capable, where their capacity is. Our governing board, however, does a lot more of the meat of the work. It meets monthly, and then this full membership body meets quarterly on those stages. So today is like a meeting of the membership and the governing board, to where we could take care of both businesses if we needed the board to make a vote that the general membership wouldn't normally do. There's something on that today, but it has happened in the past. So governing board members, like I said, we attend monthly, they attend monthly. There's a lot of policy and procedural documents that have to be reviewed and revised on a regular basis. And the board is the one that approves those final changes, has the final word in what those say. And then ensure that the COC board responsibilities are filled. Hold these meetings, do the public invitation once a year for new members, annually update our governance charter, establish performance targets, evaluate the outcomes of our funded projects, make sure that there is an established HMIS and coordinated entry system, and that those systems are functioning and working the way that they're supposed to be. Part of 24 CFR 578 outlines that COCs have to have written standards on the different project types that are funded. So emergency shelter, street outreach, rapid rehousing, we have to have established minimum operational expectations, and those come in the form of written standards. Every year, every other year, the HUD will issue the notice for a funding opportunity, and it's the board's responsibility to make sure that that is responded to, approves the final version, and to develop a continuum of care plan that's consistent with the federal regulations. So there's a lot of documentation, a lot of standards that this board is responsible to maintain. I kind of spoke to this a little bit earlier. Our full membership meets quarterly. So January, April, July, September. Anyway, we don't meet in December because every time we do, there's never a meeting and we never have a quorum. So they just agreed to just drop December from our calendar. Serve on one or more committees. We, in your packet, there should be a COC member application somewhere in here. Unless I forgot to add it. I think I forgot to add it. But it outlines the committees that are in there that we have available. Not seeing it, I think I forgot to add it, but it's available on our membership application. It's linked in this presentation. Sorry, I didn't print it. But so that's where the review of those written standards and policies, that's where that language change and those updates, that's where that is all hammered out. That's where it's discussed. That's where we figure out how are we gonna identify what needs to change. And it happens in those committees. And then I just did a little bit of an outline of what our agenda is each month. And county council has determined that because the COC is federally, is established through federal legislation, that we're bound by the Ralph and Brown Act of California, which means that we have to publicly notice our meetings. We have to give opportunities for members of the public to have, to weigh in on every topic. We have to have conversations in the public. We can't just, a whole bunch of board members get, together to discuss things and then they all come in and we're going to vote yes on this because we've already had this pre-conversation. Like none of that stuff can happen. We have to have it in the public. Any questions on our meetings were? So as I mentioned, there are committees that really do the heart of the work. And we have a new committee called the Community Accountability Committee. And Camille Leggett is the chair of that committee, and she wants to take a few minutes to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, so the Community Accountability Committee is created to essentially establish a role in which we can encourage a lot of the organizations that are involved with the COC or interested in the COC, and also providing housing services to incorporate ethical standards and inclusion for, I don't want to say inclusion, but it's like hard. How do you not use that word? But there are ways in which we can incorporate a lot of voices and include implementation of those voices, either through lived experience, disabilities, individuals who are experiencing some sort of marginalization, and individuals who are oftentimes experiencing oppression, either it be lateral oppression within their own communities or on a macro scale as well. And so having the more incorporation in their voices, especially when it comes to some of the funding sources that was mentioned by Veronica, like HCD funding, HUD funding, well, take that back, no longer HUD funding, but more of our state funding resources. It's very important that we include their voices and also include their input, because they're the ones who oftentimes you see the disproportionate rate of housing for those individuals. I do want to say positively for the community of Mendocino, it's very good to hear that as a small rural community, that we are seen as the gold standard, I would like to say, for the state of California. There's still a lot that needs to be done. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for all of your hard work and your organizations.
Do you want to talk
Oh, yes.
about for next month?
Yes, so we do have some requests for people to be involved and engaged. I know that for specific reasons, we want to make sure that we extend and incorporate like more voices on the panel that mirror what is out in our county. So essentially, we want to have more incorporated voices for Native populations and Indigenous communities. We also would like to have Latino communities, individuals with any disabilities who feel comfortable in becoming a part of the CAC. That would be very great, because we definitely want to have our population, our representation representing Mendocino County as well. We're thinking about possibly doing a engagement outreach in the community by going to either Sundays in the Park or collaborating with organizations. I've spoken with a 501c3 that is doing the RRC, and they're interested in having a table event for the CAC. I think that would be great, especially if we can encourage some of the organizations sitting here on this board to be a part of that. It would be very helpful for families. Project Sanctuary would do very well. There's going to be a lot of children and families that will be there and present, a lot of single mothers, and a lot of individuals who need assistance and supportive services that don't even know that they exist. So we are definitely going to be tabling at that event. I'm very excited to say, and we're hoping to do a community action plan where we have a meeting with the community to introduce the CIC and the COC and to also get some of their ideas as well, and also hopefully increase membership. So. Did I forget anything, Veronica?
One more bullet point that we talked about, the Community Accountability Committee is always going to make sure to have a representative on any ad hoc funding recommendations, ad hoc committees, so that committee can have that direct reporting.
And there will be surveys conducted as well. So I want to make sure we're not, I would say, being redundant with the surveys, because there's the strategic planning and there's the CAC. And so we're probably thinking maybe the CAC can coordinate with the strategic planning committee and see if we can go ahead and incorporate some questions in there as well. Okay. But me and Veronica are only two people, and we do get 2 or 3 people involved. So if you're interested and if you have time, which is funny because I know you guys were thinking, when do we have time, right? But if you do, even if it's 30 minutes, we would love for you to join. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or public comment about this presentation?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to updates from local jurisdictions, and first on the agenda is County Mendocino. Megan?
See, I was trying to think if I was on vacation for a week in the Canadian wilderness, and I'm still like gathering my bearings here. I know it was a little wild, but so I don't think there's any like there's no major like exciting things going on in County Mendocino, but I did want to just highlight 2 projects that Mendocino County Department of Social Services, they're familiar to you, is deeply engaged in. Live Oak Apartments, Project Home Key is doing really well. I did want to let people know that we've recently had a fair amount of turnover through people moving on. I think we're about to fill like 6 units in the next couple of weeks. So I want to encourage any of you that are making referrals to Live Oak to remember to keep up with that 90-day cycle. We look at applications from the last 90 days because otherwise they become too late. So if you've got some clients that you would like to, refer to Live Oak, keep doing it and kind of keep paying attention to that 90-day timeline if you're hoping to be reviewed. And that program is doing really well. It's solid. It's going really smooth. I keep telling my staff, our team there, who don't seem that enthusiastic about it, but I'm going to do it anyway. We need to do an open house. So I do want to do an open house in the fall. There's a lot of people who are not familiar with that project still and never actually literally been there. And so I really want to create a kind of just one-time place that you can come check it out, wander around a little bit, see one of the units. So I'm saying that publicly so I can do it and have an open house in the fall. Our Front Door for Families program that County of Mendocino is the primary holder of is also doing really well. I don't know if I let this group know, but the Front Door for Families program recently absorbed CalWorks Housing Support. So that had been managed by a different unit within social services. So it was never outside of social services, but literally now every funding source targeted to families with children is now in one Front Door. So it is complicated for us, but we are managing CalWorks Housing Support, bringing families home, which is specific for families with children involved in child welfare services. There's some funding specifically for TAY youth, transition age youth, and probably some other things that I might be forgetting. So it is centralizing all of the support in one place for families with children. I will emphasize again, because this is really hard for people to kind of absorb, that we don't do immediate urgent. We don't offer motel vouchers. We don't do immediate housing, but there is, other supports that are offered. So that's that, from the county of Mendocino.
Hey, can you say, it's Live Oak, I mean, can people stay there forever, just like a regular subsidized apartment if
Yeah.
they choose to?
And we do have some people that stay there. It tends to be, which is kind of what we had wanted, although this isn't true for all of them, that the younger families with children tend to be there for a certain amount of time and then move on to larger apartments. A lot of our seniors stay there a long time. So the single units, which is why our downstairs units have less turnover, I will say, because the downstairs units are mostly seniors, people with disabilities, and they tend to stay longer. So I think of the 6 units we're filling, literally, I think all of them might be upstairs. There might be downstairs.
And when you talked about the 90-day turnover, you meant that after 90 days, you kind of like.
Yeah, so the way our
Put
process,
those aside.
yeah, you're welcome to reapply, but when we're filling units, we use a scoring system and we look at all applications we've received within the last 90 days. Because it turned out when we were looking at ones from too old people have moved.
Yeah.
So we encourage, housing guides that are submitting applications on behalf of the client to vaguely pay attention if it's been 90 days and send in another application. Which shouldn't be the exact same one, updated. So they like to make sure you're kind of reviewing the household situation again. I will say, FYI, if you're referring people with dogs, me especially, are being really hardcore about dogs. You need to have your paperwork done before you can move in. So if you have clients with dogs, I would encourage them right now to begin that process of getting their dogs vaccinated, getting all dog ready before they.
Do you want me to provide you with a short list that says this is what it means to be ready? That
Yeah.
you guys all have.
I think that would be helpful for anybody we've had some dog problems. So I would really encourage those of you working with households with dogs to encourage them right from the beginning, even if they don't have housing ready for themselves. That's a really good prep step, is to get
So it
themselves.
doesn't need to be a service dog. You're talking about you will take a dog.
Yes, we have, you could be a pet, but there's things to be a pet. You have to be vaccinated and registered. A service animal, there's things to be a service animal,
Okay.
slightly different rules, but we found people move in, they have dogs, we welcome dogs, but they're not even remotely ready with all of that work, and it's
Okay.
creating too much issues for us. So you need to be dog ready by the time you move in.
They have to be registered through the county, have forms that have to be sent to the vet to ensure that they're up to date. And then there's certain forms and things that all have to be signed, but all of those have to be done and approved prior to the person having the animal on site.
We've been a little lenient in letting people move in before all that work was done, and it hasn't always worked out, so that's why we're. Yeah, dogs, I mean, it's a good thing for a client to get their dog all set up before.
Or any other pet.
Or any other pets, that's true.
Assuming, are there any resources for individuals who have pets to get their vaccinations and stuff for free or lower discounted price that would help too? So that doesn't.
I mean, I don't wanna, if we can help people problem solve that, and sometimes there's a way to. So sometimes if that comes up as an issue with a family that we're ready to accept, we would be able to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's usually not the barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking. maybe
No,
there was some barrier.
I thought that too, but that hasn't been the reason.
The county provides that through the
Yeah, I think
animal
there's-
control
yeah.
department. There's some assistance.
And we have a pretty good relationship with the shelter. They've done papers for us in the past. So like if that's a barrier, we would probably find a way to assist.
Right.
Yeah.
Joanne knows something.
There's pets for the homeless, California too.
Is that like a program that helps with that kind of thing?
Yeah. Sign up. They appreciate it.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's nice.
I didn't know that. Nice. That's really good to know, yeah. Okay, didn't mean to derail us on a pet conversation, but that was my update. Now you want to see.
I get the same video. All right, can we get a report from City of Ukiah?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm online today. I don't have a lot of announcements. We have ongoing construction all over town, obviously. Some of those projects are resulting in temporary closures to parts of the rail trail. So I know that's a little bit disruptive for people who use that as a mode of transportation, but we are also actively constructing phase 4 of the rail trail, which will continue the trail for a distance to the south, taking us just past Norgard Avenue. So providing some additional connections down there. A couple tribal related housing projects are moving forward on Cleveland Lane and then also Cooper Lane. And then the city of Ukiah was just awarded a grant to improve Leslie Street and Clay Street. So construction will happen next year. This will be a big benefit to the senior center and to the school that's there. It will facilitate some of the public transportation in that area. And it will also make Clay Street go all the way through the new courthouse site and connect at Leslie with Peach. So provide an additional east-west corridor. Courthouse is anticipated to be complete at the end of 2027. That's not our project, though. That's the state. And I think that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Next up would be City of Fort Bragg. Did Jeanette want any?
Jeanette is out. I thought Melissa had popped in on the Zoom for a minute, but I think she's left. So I don't think we have anybody.
Okay.
But before you move on, I did want to share that I learned and had a brief conversation with her that the city of Point Arena has a new city manager. Her name is Molly Haviland. And she plans to attend our next full membership meeting. She just started. She needs a few months to kind of get settled into the position, but just wanted to share that. Hey. Email address is the same.
Any updates from any other jurisdictions?
I'd like to give a little update on our Willits work. We just received IRS approval for our 501(c)(3). That was a big deal for us, taken a while, but we have that. So we can move forward, plug something into the wall and see what happens. Anyway, also, we have been working with Carla Brown, Redwood Gospel Mission, Center for Hope. And we're able to bring the shower ministry, the shower program up to Willits 2 days a week, Mondays and Tuesdays from 2:30 to 4:30 at St. Francis Episcopal Church. And so we're excited about that too. It's a way to help right now. So yeah.
What's the name of your 501(c)(3)?
It's Willits Shelter Action Group.
I feel like we should clap or something.
Feels like, yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got the letter. It's official.
Do you call yourselves like WSAG or anything?
Yeah, we avoid saying WSAG. It should have been SAG for you, but
Swag would have been good, but.
yeah. SAG.
All right.
Do you guys have an address?
Do. But I'm not sure.
They don't have a facility yet. They don't,
Yeah, that's
they
what-
don't
that's
have
what-
a facility, like a public facility type of thing.
No,
I was
we
putting
have
together a pamphlet and I saw, like, I talked and got that information. I was like, oh, I don't think I have an address though, so.
yeah, we have a PO box. I think it's 92.
You don't have like a public.
But no, we don't
Okay,
yet.
good,
No,
yeah.
no.
No, we don't. We don't have a building yet, but we did have a building, but that's not gonna happen now. And so that's our next big.
Awesome. Great.
All right, we're gonna move on to standing committee reports, and first off with the strategic plan.
So our strategic planning committee, we met to kind of go over some of the structure of the stakeholder meetings that hopefully many of you attended, some of you attended. So we met to kind of go over a lot of those questions and how those meetings would unfold. And then our hired facilitators from RCAC did conduct those stakeholder meetings since our last meeting. I'm really looking forward to the report. I think it's gonna be really interesting. They spent time on the coast, they spent time here. They did 2 lived experience focus groups, one on the coast, one inland and one on the coast. No, yeah. And there was a meeting with tribal leadership as well. So they got a range of perspectives. They were really interested in the diversity of kind of viewpoints. Really felt like there was a pretty big difference between the coast and inland, but exactly what they meant yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing the report. So I feel like those went really well. I feel good about them. And that information will help inform both our very complicated HAP6 application and the strategic planning committee as they pick up their work and use that input to start working on the next iteration of the strategic plan. So that's where we are right now. Strategic plan. Any questions?
I just wanted to give one.
Okay.
I went to the meeting that they had, which I thought it was well done and everything like that. But thought I heard that they had something like 10 questions to get through.
Yeah, that made us all nervous. Yeah.
And they got through like 2.
So every time I was like, you're not getting questions, they kept reassuring us, and I think it's true, that they felt like people were naturally giving feedback to the other questions.
Okay.
But it was, for me also, I was like, get through.
It's like when you want something to be facilitated and you're
You're like,
expecting 10 questions.
Yes,
to be able to get
they
through.
guaranteed that they were
Okay.
taking, I know,
Okay.
I'll see that too, that they felt like the other questions had been answered. And even though I was kind of like feeling like I wanted to give them a lot of direction on how to facilitate, I was like, okay, we hired them, I kept saying that Veronica, we hired them for a reason. We're paying them to do this, so I'm trusting their process.
All right.
Yeah,
I can
let's
see how, like, there were some of the, like, we got to one of the questions and I was like, we already did this one. And like, even though it wasn't
That's
on the board, but like, we already way talked about this one. So there was like,
That's so much the next one.
Yeah, I would say that meeting was pretty well attended to, so there was,
a big
yeah,
meeting.
and so I think. But we didn't want to drive on for hours, that would have been tedious as well,
Yeah,
so,
right.
so I'm trusting them that they got the information they were looking for. Well, hopefully it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to sheltering solutions.
We had to cancel the last meeting because we were holding that meeting, the stakeholder feedback sessions, which we tried out of Consolidated Tribal. We couldn't find a date around that time that everyone was available for, or even a majority of people were available, so not sure, I'm gonna reach out to everybody now that things have settled down and see what we want. Not much of an update on that.
Veronica. Coordinated entry and discharge planning.
We just had our quarterly committee meeting last Thursday, and so the next meeting, we meet as a work group for 2 months, and then the third month quarterly is an in-person committee meeting. And so that next one will be in October. We are exploring the additional data that needs to be collected from clients in order to properly match them with the housing opportunity. There's more to ask than, do you have a pet? Do you need an accessible unit? There's a lot more to it than that. And so we're starting with devising a landlord unit request form. And if we can get that to be all inclusive to address any kind of unit that we have in the community, we'll then be able to inform what additional questions we need to ask the clients. Because we have a good idea of what we need to ask the clients, but if we build that and then we build the housing developer or the housing property, then we're gonna have to go back and approve this next one. So we're just kind of, it feels weird, but we're moving in the right direction, yes. We're also looking at the prioritization, and we know it's inequitable. We've added information gathering on the regions where people would choose to live. We're having, like with the plateau, when they do a poll, if it's just everyone, they usually have to pull like 20 people just to find one that wants to live in Fort Bragg. And so we're asking that up front, like, are you willing to live in Fort Bragg or Ukiah or Willits or wherever? And so we've implemented that, that has started, but we haven't been doing it long enough to be able to see the results of that yet. Anything else? Anything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just this, with the,
What we're doing with the, moving to like a push referral process where like, we're rolling it out with like our physical housing projects that are connected to coordinated entry. One of the things that we identified last week in that conversation is that it is starting to feel a little overwhelming to think of adding all these questions to the coordinated entry, the initial coordinated entry screening. And so like, because it could start being like a whole housing problem solving session and a housing barrier assessment. And there's already a lot of questions in the initial screening. So we're also talking like, how do we navigate that to be able to get the information that would be the most helpful to match people to appropriate housing resources? And like, how do we build that into our system in a way that doesn't overload our providers, our coordinated entry front doors, or the team of people that are doing the actual like referral matching process. So that could, I think we've got some good ideas, but it definitely will take some fleshing out and working with the providers that are doing housing navigation stuff.
So fine tuning it back after we get the initial assessment, then what?
Any questions or comments about coordinated entry, discharge planning? Okay, next is community accountability.
So I basically gave you guys a spoiler alert earlier, and I mentioned everything. I don't want to be redundant. But essentially we would really like your participation. So if you can join, if you want to listen in, or if you know anyone who has lived experience or is interested in being a part of the committee that is here on the board, please like nudge them, even if it's 30 minutes of your time. We appreciate it. And hopefully I can see some of you guys join, because again, we want to mirror whatever our population is out in our community. That makes up this community accountability committee. That's it.
Right. Membership committee.
We met jointly with the Community Accountability Committee weeks ago. There's a lot of crossover between the two committees. And so it was a lot easier to hold like a meeting as opposed to two separate meetings that most of the same people have to go to both. And there was a lot of when we're talking about the role of the Community Accountability Committee, there's a lot of crossover in what that means to be a member or how membership works. And so I think that, and both committees agreed to move forward as a collaboration. And so we'll be teasing that out, but that way the membership committee is more active and can help more with the public engagement, education. You have anything to add, Noemi? You were there and we had a really good conversation. I just want to give you the opportunity if you want to.
No, Camille gave a really good presentation on it. But yes, everybody's input is very important, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of the committee.
Thank you, Noemi. Appreciate you. Okay.
Any questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to HMIS performance measurement.
Amy's out sick today, so you get to hear my voice again. Next meeting is August 14th, 2:30 in this very room. we have the June 2025 data completeness report for the full system. As we have religiously every meeting before, right, consistently. We've also had some discussions, and I just want to remind everyone that we're working on updates to our HMIS policies and procedure manual. So there'll be more discussed at the next HMIS committee meeting, more at the next board meeting. There's a lot of discussion and changes happening.
Can I just briefly update? I think it was our last board meeting, might have been the one before that we had a fairly lengthy conversation about law enforcement access to HMIS, and you all directed me to go back and ask for a legal opinion. I did do that. It looks like our county counsel and Mendocino County Council feels like she may be able to provide that herself without hiring an outside county person or whatever thing. But it's just in the beginning conversation with that. Just as a little preview, I can tell that there's going to be a lot of hesitancy from legal counsel on allowing law enforcement access to HMIS without explicit release of information by the client themselves saying, I understand that law enforcement will be looking at this information. So that's kind of, if I'm reading the tea leaves, that's kind of where I'm seeing it going. But I just want you to know I did not forget that. And we're still continuing to see what happens with that and getting a legal response.
We can't lock our HMIS by client.
I know, so he doesn't know that. I know that. No, that won't quite work. I know. So I saw that too, but anyway, I'm just keeping you all informed throughout the process of where that may be going, and we'll see.
Yeah, it's the only ad hoc committee right now. We successfully submitted both the sheltered and unsheltered point in time count and the housing inventory count on June 13th, 2025, and I provided a copy of the long report that I went ahead and did it in Excel and in a way that the new HDX 2.0 will do like it did before. So I got these lovely reports. I'm going to skip this first one, the pretty one from ASR, and we'll come back to that one. But for the data, I just wanted to show you the first 2 pages are all households, all of it combined. And so number of persons in shelter was 137, the transitional was 59, so that's what, 196? We had 440 unsheltered for a total countywide of 636 that experienced homelessness that we identified on the night of January 28th, 2025. In the county. In the county. On just that one snapshot on that one night. Then I give breakouts on by household size, at least one adult and one child. So those are families. Households without children, so those are adults only. And then households with only children, which we had 0 in this count this year. So we had no unaccompanied youth. Veterans are on the next page. And that's all veteran households. And then we break out veterans by household type, at least one adult and one child, and then households without children. Since veterans have to be 18 or older, there's no child only household. And then we have all the youth households combined. So that is unaccompanied 18 to 24, or if they're parenting youth of the same age. So those unaccompanied youth households are the next report. And then the parenting youth households are next. And so that's the point in time count. And then also on page 43 of your packet is the housing inventory count. So every project that provided housing on that night of the point in time count, this is a record of the number of beds that are available. So you see the total beds category. There's a whole lot more detail. It splits it out by household type and if it's seasonal or overflow and a lot more details, but I just kind of pared it down to what I thought you guys would really want to know. So there is more data available than just this. But so total beds, you can see the column of, and then the bed count is the number of people that were in that project that night as reported by that project or by HMIS. And then the utilization rate of each project. Any questions so far? Yes.
I think it'd be important, I don't know whether, or even, you know, maybe a small group of people to go through this with incredible, you know, because it is a lot of information. And it, a little bit of it kind of reminds me of course, I can't remember the people who kind of interviewed the shelter folks and then gave their report and then we talked with them. Like that. And one of the things that I remember they emphasized was it seemed like for the number of unhoused single adults that we have in this county, that we don't put enough emphasis on trying to find shelter for them. And of course, I understand why we want families in shelters. We don't want families out on the streets. But, you know, like the number for, if I read this correctly, it does seem, I mean, I'm still shocked how high the number is for unsheltered adults at that time. It's kind of shocking, I think. And, you know, I think, in other words, maybe we can't do anything about it, but that's one of the things that I always am looking for more information for in terms of, you know, how many beds are really actually open for people. And I feel like we've been in this, you know, I know our Project Sanctuary has been in sort of this kind of, a wealth still of that we can still somebody can call and, you know, they're not going to fit to our congregate shelter because of behavioral issues, other kinds of things that happen. Clean long enough, they have mental health issues, they're just fear to live at congregate, so we can give them a motel for 2 or 3 nights or something like that. But you know, it just feels like we're going to face a wall here pretty soon. You know, like we won't have motel vouchers either, and that's a lot of people. If this is at all accurate, that's a lot of unsheltered folks. I mean, I'm not saying that we can do anything about it, but it doesn't seem like we focus on it.
We don't focus on.
Well, in other words, because how do we expand that? How do we focus on really saying we are committed to being
I mean,
ahead on, you know,
Not that I necessarily want to dive into like a big discussion about it, because that's not really the agenda.
right.
And one, I think there's funding restrictions that are really important to point out around, you can only spend a certain amount of the funds on shelter versus permanent housing. And by, you know, state guidance, there's, you know, pretty clear on that, and federal guidance. And then we're in a time of some pretty major change in terms of the federal funds that come and the policies that are attached to them. And I think right now it's a big upheaval of how is it going to look in the next round of funding that's coming our way, and are we going to see a shift in, you know, there's a lot of different potentials of what could happen in terms of funding coming down, and are there going to be more funds available for shelter and less funds available for permanent housing, and so that really does, I think, inform how much we're investing in shelter versus how much we're investing in permanent housing. It's a really hard conversation to like, because obviously if we're not investing in shelter, we're just allowing unsheltered homelessness to be there.
Which seems to be the biggest complaint of the community at large. And I didn't mean to have this turn into this, but it just, maybe there is a way that, you know, a group of people could just dissect this, just because it is good information, just to generally. make a
I think
presentation.
that, and I'm, like, as I'm speaking, so this might be a bad idea, but I think that perhaps the strategic planning committee, as we dive back into strategic planning, should spend one session specifically on all the PIT data, because I didn't know where I've been paying more attention. And if you look at the report here, I mean, what really caught my attention this year was the direct correlation between housing inventory increasing and unsheltered homelessness going down. And Veronica and I went deep down this rabbit hole. And this pattern is not what a lot of other communities are seeing. They're either seeing them both go up, but they're not seeing this like crossover that we saw, which is actually super positive.
Yeah,
And
it
to
is.
me, tell a story of as you expand housing options, and this is not just shelter, right? This is shelter and permanent. Your unsheltered goes down. So, but it starts to beg the question again, kind of like Sage was saying, I think there's going to be less funding for all kinds of housing options.
Yes.
And some housing projects have a higher success rate than others. So it's going to be really difficult. You know, I've said this before, shelters don't have a super high success rate in terms of transitioning to permanent housing. Permanent housing is permanent housing. So there's a success rate there because we become permanent housed, right? So there's, those are hard questions. But I do think every time we do the PIT, we have to spend more time on this because there's other issues that came up, not issues, but things that came up for me. The demographics that we see is dependent on the number of people interviewed, and that sample size starts to get small. And so then I'm like, I don't know, did we just happen to interview a whole lot of, what happened this year is we actually ended up interviewing a lot of veterans. It was kind of like skewing our veteran data, just happened to be because we have a small sample size overall. So because we're a small community, relatively speaking, the data we have can kind of fluctuate in a way that may or may not be realistic.
Yeah, that's what.
So I feel like we have to look at like long time spans. Like this is a 10-year trend. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at a 10-year trend here. Even though I may not have a ton of faith in that specific number, 440 is not like necessarily the exact number. There's clearly a trend going on. And that's kind of what I feel like we need to look at more closely, which I think would be interesting.
Yeah, I do.
I noticed this year there's a shift of a higher percentage on the coast. Is that just a weird anomaly or is that actually happening? I don't know. We're going to see, I think, some of the demographics on a percentage of tribal members decreased. I think that's probably just because we interviewed less this year, right? So like all of those things have to be looked at over this multi-year time span, rather than, which is a longer conversation. But which we should definitely have.
Okay, that's all.
Really saying.
Be good.
Megan had transitioned us from that report to the executive summary, which it was a good segue. Just so that this is an initial, just 2-page, like 30-foot kind of perspective on it, preliminarily from ASR, my survey research. We'll be getting a longer executive report like we did last year, but this was just from them as their initial.
That longer 13-page report, Judy has more trend lines over time. This one just shows, really the only trend line over time is this one, and then the rest is like literally happened that year. But again, I think those multi-year spreads tell a better story.
Right.
I'm very curious to see, I wish we had one more yellow variance line that would show individuals who not only went into permanent housing, but the types of like maybe bifurcating. And I think that would be in the more expensive report, knowing what kind of permanent housing, was it affordable? Was it who, was it moderate based? Yeah, I want to see that because that also plays a role in us seeing the cultural shifts with the funding sources, but it also shows you the gap. And I think it's very important, as I've talked to some old friends from HCD, that we focus on ways to possibly with individuals in the affordable housing. I'm hoping that we can get some funding to focus on ways to increase services like financial literacy, more intensive services that can gear them and give them the skills that they need to. So just in case something happens, I know it's hard because some people are living on SSDI and SSI, and those are the individuals that are going to be most vulnerable in these funding issue timeframes. But I also think for the individuals who are higher, higher intellectually and have the ability and capability to do more employment, I think it's very important that that should be focused on and honed in on. Just because those individuals can not only not necessarily stay in affordable housing, but given the tools and the supportive services, they can go and transition into housing that is not affordable. Hopefully we can get some built. I think that's another gap. You can go on and on, sorry.
I totally agree. And I have a feeling that might emerge in the strategic planning process. I mean, we've spent so much time, and I want to give credit to everybody. Please, this trend line going down is due to the work you've done. It's really awesome. Our accuracy and completeness in HMIS is so much better than it's ever been. And that's where we get this good data. And so, right, the state, I don't think I shared it here, but the state has started to publicly shame everybody on their HMIS data. And Mendocino County looks fantastic. Like, I was all excited, and then Veronica kind of burst my bubble because I think, are doing such a good job in our HMIS work that we look super successful. These other communities that don't look as successful might be that they're just not doing HMIS as well.
That's, yes.
But I'm like, I think we're fantastic, but when you don't, right now, since there's this public shaming website, if you're not doing your HMIS well, it's awful. It looks bad. I mean, I don't want to pick on them, but Lake County looks like they've housed 6 people with $4 million. Oh, that's it. We're in Mendocino County, I get to say it. So, but I'm sure there's so the HMIS accuracy is super important because it is now being, but not just for the public shaming part, but because it gives us the kind of data you're talking about. Like, if we can get really good and accurate on it, we can start seeing those nuances that are going to be important.
And then you can focus on how you can serve those populations, right?
As we should anticipate that long-term federal support for homeless individuals is going to decline. So we've got to look at other ways for people to become self-sufficient.
I would just remind everybody too that sometimes the strategies that we get from the feds on state really don't fit us. And so, some of the things we were forced to do at Fort Street, like eliminating transitional housing, it's just a dumb shit, and it took us years to recover from that. And so if I'm nervous about this reduced shelter beds, it feels like another potential dumb shit to me. So we have to, I love that we want to get really real with our numbers and know and understand, because once you start really shifting those funding sources, it takes a really long time to recover. And it also discourages other people jumping in to become housing providers because it's just getting more and more uncertain. So I think the more confident we can feel about our potential understanding of those that we're trying to serve, I think that'll make it a little less hectic, because I just think we're in for a couple of years of hectic.
Okay. But looks good. Looks everybody.
There's the other, there probably is ways to do this, but we always do, it's a housing inventory count, but it doesn't also track the supportive services changes in like accessibility and supportive services, or like because I think in the last, with Callie and community supports, we drastically increased the housing focused supportive services that we had in the community, but the connection doesn't get made on the pit count. So to see, and there is definitely a need on a data advocacy level to demonstrate the effectiveness of the supportive services. They're at risk of the funding streams.
It should show up in that kind of returns to homelessness thing, which was right. Wouldn't that show up over time? And
potentially, but
if you're doing more supportive services, less people would. You don't think so?
Well, if you're doing more supportive services, more people are exiting the housing as well that are captured in HMIS related projects. So we're still.
Oh, you mean because they're exiting to maybe private market housing?
Yeah,
I see.
Or affordable housing that's not
a homeless.
HMIS. And And then we're also increasing our success rates of utilizing the homeless connected housing that we have through those supportive services. And they're at high risk right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I started keeping track of, and it's not the point in time count, but I think because people kind of latch onto this and we all know there's flaws to it, but some of those outside indicators, CDC success rate and housing people that were homeless, super neutral third party fire department calls for homelessness have reduced by 30%. I mean, that's just an objective fact, and they don't have any incentive to like make those numbers look good. So like, that's just like looking at all of those pictures, those data points together, I think are helpful. Not exactly sure how to get to the specific one you're talking about, Sage, but I'm curious about it too.
There might be some ways to extrapolate that data because RCS does provide supportive services like mental health and, med management. And like that, I believe is incorporated in your own internal data. So that might be helpful as well. But it's hard because you want to see all of it, right? It's not just RCS, it's in a cabin. You want to see everybody put their little hands in the pot so everybody can get their kudos, right? And their funding.
Projects, Jeanette's not here. Is there somebody else that attended the reentry collaborative that has any comments? Okay. Any other project updates? So we'll move on to board governance and protocols. We have a recommended action. Veronica, can you?
Yeah, so it's that time again. We have 6 board seats that have been vacated, and we need to fill them. I have a QR code on, so the dedicated seat for an individual lived experience of homelessness is available. We received 1 nomination. We have a dedicated seat available for a housing developer or property manager seat. We received 1 nomination for Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation, our CHD seat. And then we have 4 representative board seats available, and we have received 6 nominations for those seats, which are Adventist Health, Mendocino County Office of Education, Mendocino County Youth Project, Nation's Finest, Redwood Community Services, and the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. And so on the tables in front of you, and I'm going to pull it up if I can figure out which mouse is the correct one. I'm going to pull it up and show it, but there is a QR code that if you take it, if you scan it on your smartphone or other device, it'll take you directly to a Google form. And I'm trying to figure out which one is the QR code.
So while Veronica's doing that, I'm gonna do my pep talk. Can I do a pep talk?
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge the awkwardness of the public voting, and I want to say that we appreciate everybody who is putting themselves forward for nominations, and there is nothing personal about the voting process. People may choose to change. So thank you so much for all of you being brave enough to go through a public voting process.
If there are multiple people here for one organization, it needs to be only one rep voting
Yes.
for the organization.
Thank you for reminding us that.
Yeah,
Correct.
I'm not sure if I'm the only one. I'm not voting Joanne's.
Yes.
They
One
weren't.
vote for organization. So if you have friends, coworkers here, choose who's voting.
Veronica, I was like, who's, it's just a picture with my name.
That's
That's
you.
like when I'm not studying.
It was a Facebook picture, I think, from lunch. Okay, so those of you who are online, it is loading right now.
You should be able to, let me scroll out.
So the people who can vote are members,
General members.
general members.
So if I called your name to come in here today, you can vote. And you have to record your name. So, I'll know if you're not allowed to. So it's Amanda, Ashley, Brady, Denise. Christina Castorena has joined us. Christina, you can vote if you'd like. You should vote, Christina. Dawn, Jimmy, Jackie, Janie, Joanne Brewer, Joanna Olson, Judy Albert, Camille, Matt, Noemi, Priest, Teresa, and Paul.
Veronica, Paul and I, we feel like Paul is the tiebreaker, non-voter.
Oh, yeah, Paul, don't vote.
Yeah.
Unless we have
I
a,
can do that.
we have a tie, and then we'll make you vote on the spot. So, I've got my responses. I've got 8 so far. And I'm expecting 18. 17, without Paul, 17. If you are not gonna vote, will you please let me know
Okay, so.
right now?
I mean, it's imagine, it's in.
Yeah, it's good, yeah.
So, okay.
It's a
11,
responsibility.
waiting now.
Yeah. Doesn't mean-
Well, I'll be able to see who voted too.
Start calling people out.
Specifically.
Oh.
Specifically.
14, okay.
And yours would be fine.
I see, so that's.
Oh, you're stepping out.
His house, so he has like.
But I will no, I mean, so yeah, so you've got a thousand people in housing.
We do have rough.
And then an additional plus some of that, it's just been kind of vacation.
Okay.
So like over time, this is what I'm doing and September.
Yeah, I need
I
visuals.
shall test that. So it's great.
Baby shower.
You want the housing to be. You want this number to go up, you know, this number to go down.
Right, yeah. That's probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like that's the takeaway.
Yeah. Provided.
Shelter or most of what, because I shelter for nothing, but my own baby. They've increased housing specifically because of.
All right. 17 responses.
Like places that are specific.
We'll get to the lights and lights. See it all my brain.
Oh, yeah. I.
Huh?
It has to be.
Amanda, Brady. No.
Tracy's.
You just said you need all of them.
That's why they go to like.
Excellent job, everybody.
They all. Everybody thinks that's right.
Yeah.
That's all. So easy.
And for the year, decade.
So
Or whatever.
how do I do that?
So.
Last time you needed a minute.
Yeah, you look at it.
We'll tell you notes, talk amongst yourself, it's like whoever got it.
You can then bring the announcement balloons to.
It's not.
What comes out?
Sorry, no, I was like, don't make it, no, you can help make it in there, do that, no.
No.
I put that in there, like, you know, it's.
I don't know that.
The baby Dropping that.
There's a whole bunch of them.
Deal and this. Well, that's right. Yeah. So.
Those two calls are fine. This is where I keep this sort.
Yeah.
I've been to two weddings before and I have another one with my sisters. I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Harry Potter and her husband is Ronald. Redhead. Oh, I see.
Yeah. It's gonna take you a while.
Yeah, yeah. How much?
But I am gonna. I'm gonna.
Oh, we do. So you're at that phase now, or you think it's gonna be? I only get to go to the shower since once you're high five class.
I would find the shop.
You're like, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be rated if she.
Expensive.
Yeah, my mom lives in a place and then she lives.
Doing really, I have. Don't you want to just do the student services?
Remember, we had to.
I know,
like,
but I mean-
it has to be by members and by vote.
I said, not what I do. She would work. So you preloaded the. It's smarter than you.
Just being oils. It's just. It was gone. Yeah, I just kind of search.
How do you have, you kind of rethink the range?
On recording for your transparency.
And,
Nothing but problems.
you know, and they did a great job. The only thing I took is that he's not a redhead. This is like strawberries.
Like what?
You're like, they were this guy trying to
Eyelashes and eyebrows.
Those are all good. Trees.
Like baby shower, baby shower, baby shower.
Every other, like,
You're gonna go spots each time.
Yeah, yeah.
Continually cutting
One
trees.
this month, one last.
so you don't, there's no where.
And then I went to a wedding discussion today.
You know, all the baby showers you're going to, I said, oh, we'll have a song conversation.
So, okay. So how?
There's a way around that shit.
Yeah, younger. Yeah. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Like, yeah. I know.
Right now.
I was gonna say, like, just because.
That's what I'm saying, that. Lots of me, that they know that to me.
And also like, I mean,
Yeah.
buddy.
Tell me when I'm around.
Now, like, stuff we're getting married around, right, it's like, it feels later in life. It's like a different.
I've seen.
I feel like at that point, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean. So I like. So it's nice, I mean, baby showers. But.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
Baby shower, she was like.
Responsibilities that come up on the children that are not.
Man, that's already math.
So I find.
37, like, yeah, like, like, with a, like.
RCS.
You have another one, right? I don't know, like.
I bet you're typing this, you know, you like.
No, no. Yes.
And you have.
I remember listening.
The whole.
Yeah.
You know.
Use it.
Right. Or it's these big rotates.
Yeah, exactly.
If I even know, most of my family speak out here. And I was just, we would just. It's just like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
using it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my hand.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. You can't
Right.
get exams. Right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so as soon as I get through this, and it's like, so. Right. And it may get.
No, sorry. Is January next year. I already got accepted.
Yes. Big TV.
I already see the reels. Or the science. I have a jacket. Okay. I don't know. No, that's fine. Project.
I always said that.
It was hard to like.
I don't get it.
Like it's even always being played, yeah, you know, like being played social.
When I'm working, I'm not anywhere.
Right, so.
And
For one, like, stuff. Yeah. Well, finding someone.
Grant funding, right? The grant funding. It's gonna be my mom and I'm gonna just like.
they don't raise them.
Yeah.
But I know they're gonna be. I should. I mean, it's just. It's like.
The older then I read her text. That's it.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh.
The weather's been. They're not, I mean, they're like. Saying, where are you? Are they home? They're. Having to remind. Yeah, and I. Yeah, no, I.
I was just home.
I also practices what I do is I text.
I heard my mother, now I have to say, and if I.
Right off
If
then.
I person.
Read sentences. Yeah.
Christina.
I should have known.
Well, it's about.
So sometimes it's
So
that
until. But then I was. Betty White is.
That would be. Chair there, so. Maybe if I turn there, oh yeah, no, one, right. I'm not. But you, that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And he should probably get this stuff, right? Last time to the prize.
Yeah. Yeah.
When like even.
I just. And I was just.
I guess. Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
It would drive
Yeah.
All right, hey, we got it.
Me too.
Hey, guys, so, we've gone through the tally voting. Everybody voted online. I didn't have to give you paper copies. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. The final tally, the top four were Adventist Health with 15. The Youth Project and RCS at 14 and MCOE at 11. So thank you Denise and Matt for accepting nominations and for everything you do. And congratulations to the others.
So the cycles now are 3-year cycles. We're slowly getting, if you all remember, when we all changed the board composition, some people had 1-year terms, some people 2, some had 3. But the plan is that each year we're gonna get back on 3-year cycles. So these 4 and these 6, because there was only 1 nomination for the other 2 seats, these 6 seats now have 3-year terms. Stuck with us for 3 more years.
Do the summer of a 4-year term. Right or die.
It was last Friday, Friday.
I have to use these skills. Right, pass it up.
You know, for things that are.
Yes. All right. We're gonna move on to funding.
2 more items, then we're done.
Veronica, take it away.
Okay, so under funding, I have 2 updates for everyone. In your packet on the last page, I included an email that was sent out by the HUD SNAPS competition. The email account to all COC contacts. I didn't get it. They created a new listserv. I had to get this from Chris Pitcher, our HUD TA guy. But in 2024, last year, HUD and Congress approved doing a 2-year NOFO. I was not planning in my schedule this year to do a NOFO. But the current administration has decided not to honor that, and they are moving forward with doing a 2025 NOFO. I have to look at it as an opportunity. It is a lot of work, but this is important work that we're doing. And the message here is, it's loud and clear. The second paragraph, I'm just gonna read it here. In response, HUD intends to publish a NOFO for 2025 Continuum of Care Awards. HUD invites COCs to prepare for an application focused on treatment and recovery, reducing unsheltered homelessness, reducing returns to homelessness, and increasing the earned income of participants. I guess that wasn't what I was looking for. Oh, the NOFO will seek to provide opportunities for new types of projects, including street outreach and transitional housing programs. HUD encourages COCs to evaluate the effectiveness of their projects at contributing to the community-wide goals above and to ensure that the most effective partners, including faith-based organizations, are involved. So they're expanding the project types.
Can you remind me what the project types used to be?
Homelessness prevention is allowable, but hardly ever allowed to be requested. Rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. Bonus projects could be any project type, I think. Because they have ESG for emergency shelter and rapid rehousing. But
The COC funds also have rapid rehousing separate from ESG.
Right.
And then there's bonus projects for like projects focusing on domestic violence, so like rapid rehousing with a specific domestic violence target population. And then there's also some support services only.
Yeah,
Support services that you can do, like we have a coordinated entry fund in our community that.
But street outreach and transitional housing would be somewhat new.
Yeah, transitional housing used to be on it, but street outreach was never historically on the COC program because it was under ESG.
Is there an idea of when the NOFA will be released, or is it still just?
This is all I know.
Okay.
This is, everything else is conjecture.
Does it have an amount that they're planning on giving out?
It's the annual, it's the same amount. It's like 39.
Maybe. Cause I'm not sure. It's the big beautiful bill. Into that.
I don't think they've released the amount, like we don't know.
You know.
So it used to be that we all thought there was 2 years of funding, and again, primarily this funded PSH program
That was the only project received local.
that you thought you were gonna get for 2 years. Now it's 1 year. We don't know what either the funding or the scope of the project looks like.
Correct.
Okay.
So I want to bring this up because if there are any providers who want to get their foot in the door, getting new COC funds to be able to fall into the renewal for future years, this is an opportunity. Start talking to your board, start thinking about what else you want to do. This is an opportunity that might not happen again.
Our strategic plan was outdated.
Well, I have a feeling that they're kind of highlighting some stuff here. I mean, they're telegraphing some things.
Yes. I mean, that we necessarily have to do. Street
No.
outreach or transitional housing or.
No, but it sounds like they may be leaning towards wanting to cover recovery housing. Maybe require some recovery stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they suddenly require sobriety or something. I mean, who knows? There's all kinds of things that this could be. I think they're telegraphing something here.
So I wanted to make sure that everyone got the direct message word for word on your own. So you
Right.
can draw your own conclusions and interpretations.
Work requirements. I think they're telegraphing work requirements. Now that I think of it, I think they're saying that there might be a work requirement to be a whole crazy thing.
They're also talking about adding a time limit to rental assistance through a whole long laundry list of projects that include SNAPS funding, which the COC program falls under.
So you're talking duration. of
Yeah.
it, Like how long they can receive,
2 years.
which, so like what's that's strategy housing, that's not.
This reminds me though, I probably should give this group an update on some of the things that the federal government is imposing on other programs that are not housing specific that I could see impacting housing over time. Work requirements for CalFresh, work requirements for Medi-Cal, those kinds of changes. I thought they were pretty far out into the future. There are some things that are turning out to be not as far out in the future as I thought. And so I should, I'm saying it now, so I'll remember. When I do a county update next month, I'll preview some of those things to you.
So it's not January then? I thought it was January.
Well, it's not gonna be before Jan. I thought some of them were 2027 and 2028. There's some things that are actually happening much quicker and some kind of said immediately, which I was a little surprised by, but some things that are pretty intense, mostly regarding undocumented individuals, but not all. For example, if you had a undocumented grandma who would take in a child who was removed by CPS, they receive foster care payments. That I think is going away almost immediately. So there could be some displacement in terms of children's opportunities to not be in the foster care system. They impact a lot of things. Yeah.
So
On that cheery note.
I have a quick question. Is it only for individuals who are not receiving SSDI or individuals who are, it's just across the board, you have to use this?
We don't
We don't know
know
yet.
Well, I think
they're
that
still
their
typing.
focus wanted to be to protect people who are seniors and or have somebody in the household with a disability as far as like housing goes. So I think that those people will not have that
The time
2-year limit for it, at least the voucher programs. What I read with COC, I don't know if you read this, but with COC funding, they wanted to change it all to an emergency solutions grant.
That's
Did
why
you
this
change that?
surprised
Okay.
me.
And then they wanted everything to be limited to like that 2 years in that work requirement. I didn't see anything in there protecting elderly or people with a disability, but it's so vague right now. We don't really
So
know.
that's gonna help me understand, that working assumption is that would be for people that after the 2-year
Mhm.
support will be self-sustaining. So that's a very,
Right. That's their assumption.
yeah.
I would say in the services world, there's a category of people called ABODs, able-bodied adults without dependence. ABOD. ABODs will be expected to work. There's been exemptions over time for various ways, and I don't see that going away. I mean, I see that returning. So if you're an ABOD, and
According to some assessment definition, I'm assuming they'll have some sort of a definition for how to.
an ABOD is between a certain number, a certain age, and I think they changed the dependent was actually 12 and under. It used to be 18 and under, but I think it's 12 and under. And if you're not an SSI, from the government's perspective, if you have a disability, you would be enrolled in SSI. So the big picture government, they're saying if you are an able-bodied adult without dependents and you're not enrolled in SSI, I'm saying this is the government's perspective.
Right.
You don't have a disability and you should get our things.
We tend to know how it doesn't capture our folks who are chronically homeless and not on SSI.
Well, that
Haven't succeeded in general.
It's heavy weighted on their physical ability, and we all know that there's other issues. But the other thing is, at the same time, we're going to this crash point about, will there be enough jobs?
Well, that's exactly, I mean, I can just, they're talking about AI.
Gonna be required.
5% of jobs anyway.
And there won't be
My laundry instead of my creative stuff.
I mean, I pay attention to the CalWorks program. There's a number of ways you can meet work requirements.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
you can,
See, I haven't seen that.
I see it on the back end.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can volunteer, you can go to school. I mean, there's a lot of ways to achieve your work requirements. What this will look like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I must admit, I give credit to people who are able to keep track of all those things and turn in that paperwork. And somebody else watching all that
Yes.
paperwork to watch and check it off of this, because that takes huge amounts of time.
That's actually the part that's gonna have people lose their benefits is not turning in all the paperwork. Yes, they're doing the thing, but instead of turning in the paperwork.
The State Council on Developmental Disabilities, who Denise is with, they at the national level have been doing a lot of advocacy and education. I'm on a mailing list and I got a really great PowerPoint presentation about what's changing and what are the exemptions, especially from the perspective of families with, members that have developmental disabilities. One of the things that was really important, and they literally highlighted, is that work exemptions include person who is medically frail or otherwise has special medical needs, including an individual who is blind and disabled, with a substance use disorder, with a disabling mental disorder, with a physical, intellectual, or developmental disability that significantly impairs their ability to perform one or more dailies of active living. And it also exempts person who is the parent, guardian, caretaker, relative, or family caregiver of a dependent child, 13 years of age and under, or a disabled individual. So if they're taking care of a child or a disabled adult, there's some exemptions there.
I don't know. I think the timeframe, state of California, I get it. Not even state, federal, sorry. Sorry, didn't put that on the state. On the federal level, I don't think 2 years is enough. I think some people have more of the ability to do it as, depending on education, their upbringing, their experiences, their stabilization mentally. A lot of people can do it within 2 years, but what we're missing on a grand scale is the step up into housing and like having someone who's in a shelter go into an interim stabilization, whatever they need for their medication, more intensive services, and then moving into phase 3, which would be permanent housing, affordable housing, and if possible, moving those individuals into moderate-based housing. That would be a step-by-step model, and it takes time. It's crazy.
I mean, the funding changes that they're talking about in this memo that got sent out actually is more close to what you were talking about. But the challenge with that is that has been the model in the past. And the research and data does not support that being an effective model for folks who are chronically homeless.
Yeah,
And
that's correct.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of gains in terms of permanent supportive housing being improving in our community, and we've seen a lot of gains in terms of our housing outcomes. And that has coincided with us moving away from that model to a permanent supportive housing, like for chronically homeless people and
Providing services there.
yeah.
More of the.
Because if you're providing support services in permanent housing, you don't have to do interim housing.
Say that again, Sage. What did you
If
just?
you're providing support services in permanent housing, you don't have to do interim housing. You don't have to do transitional housing. You don't have to do shelter. If you're providing the support services in permanent housing, then you're also not taking up your housing stock with temporary solutions. You're using your housing stock for permanent solutions.
Got it. Transitional housing has really good outcomes. It does. I mean, if you look at the outcomes of people transitioning out of transitional housing into permanent housing, it's quite
For
good.
certain populations.
Yeah, I think that number would be a little
Agreed,
bit
for
lower
certain
for
populations.
chronic homelessness.
I mean, I could tell a very direct correlation, say at Willow Terrace, for instance, when classes and services are being offered and when they're not.
Mhm.
Just in that little community alone, right? You're only talking 37 people. When agencies are actively there hosting things, we do pretty good. When they're not, we don't.
And even with like a 2-year limit, I mean, we have so many people on our programs that are working, they still cannot afford to pay rent, like they can't with the cost of living. So it's gonna be interesting.
I know, I'm just confused by what people imagine in rural communities, what work is available, how much money people can actually make, and what are you gonna do, just decimate your rural communities? I mean, you can't afford a 2-bedroom apartment if with utilities, et cetera. You're trying to run a car, go to work every day. I mean, it's impossible.
If you can find one,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
My guess is that whatever drastic thing is being proposed will look a little bit different when it's finally implemented. And there'll be some, if you are working, but you still can't afford your full rent, there might be an exemption, like that kind of thing. That's how I've seen it shake out with changes
I know,
here.
I just think
Yeah.
of all the pressure, I just feel like everybody is constantly under, why do that happen to people when they don't have their preference?
Yeah, these artificial timeframes don't really work for everybody.
Right.
And it just creates that you're never safe.
Yeah,
You're just never safe.
yeah.
Feeling with them.
And now I feel like more people are going to try to, hate to say it, but like. There are a lot of people that I've seen working in the realm of counseling who have an intellectual disability or some sort of differing abilities, right? And they were able to still keep a job, right? I was able to help them find something that they love doing, either if it's saying hello at Walmart or whatnot, right? Like they love doing it and they were so joyful. But the issue that we're having right now is now that's going to cause individuals who may want to push to try to be self-sufficient to just say, I have a mental disability and therefore I'm exempt, right? Instead of trying. And so I feel like it's going to keep them from pushing forward because of that. And I don't know, maybe you might disagree with the sage, but I just,
The research that I've read on that disagrees with that though people are motivated to be self-sufficient more than they're motivated to play a system.
well, not saying play the system, but encouraging them, like, that things, like not having someone saying, oh, you have a disability, you don't have to work. Like the person providing the services, not encouraging them that they can because of that exemption. Not that what they want to do, because a lot of the time they want to work, they want to do those things. But as a fast way of getting them housed and getting the voucher, they'll say, well, let's just do it this way, you know? Not saying that you guys do that, but I've seen it in areas out of the Minnesota County.
Just really quick, National Alliance to End Homelessness is doing a campaign, letter writing campaign and contacting your representatives, because this isn't set in stone. They haven't released it. They haven't even, I don't know if they even have a budget yet. So there's still time to change this. So if you're interested in that, naeh.org.
And homelessness.org.
Is it endhomelessness.org? Endhomelessness.org. Excuse me. You do NAEH. No problem. I'm gonna move on to the last update is on HAP 6, the stakeholder sessions. Were very eventful and successful, much more successful than under HAP 5. I think it was a great opportunity, great experience. And the round 6 applications are due August 29th. I'll have that draft for you with the next. On August 8th.
It's Veronica, if there's nothing else, we're gonna adjourn. The next meeting will be August 18th. 1:30, right? Sure.
Secret code. Secret code. It's right to that door.
Oh.
Oh.